Well, hello. We have Daniel is here, and Mary, and Ryan, and Robert, and someone chatted and said that they are going to need to. Oh, Daniel said you're going to have to hop off.
I'll probably hop off around 12:50. Well,
Okay.
Central, 1:50 your time.
Well, hopefully
Oh,
we'll be done
shoot.
by then. If I can, yeah, if I'll stop fooling around and we'll get right down to it so that people can actually go
Well,
do
okay.
things.
Vicky said that she's unable to make it from my reminder that got sent out literally 15 minutes ago. So totally understand that. And then I got a out of office from Becky. So we might have other people hop on, but we might not. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just get right down to it. So welcome to reviewer training. And I know Mary has been through this before. April has been a review coordinator before. And so I think Ryan, Robert, and Dan, but you've all been reviewers before, right? Just not review coordinators. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of see where everyone was at with this because I thought we had some newer review coordinators this time. So so the reason we do a different training for review coordinators is because the process is like, I mean, there's some things that are a lot the same. And like when I go through this, I always say this, like I make it seem more complicated than it really is. It's the same system and the same process. And I'm going to walk you through that too. And this is being recorded too. So if you need to go back and watch it, you can do that. Or if you want to share it out later, or if you just want to ask questions, you can email either April or I, and we'll be happy to help you with that. So I'm going to start off with going through, well, first let's talk about numbers. I just did a little audit this morning and we have 38 drafts and 62 submitted programs. The priority deadline is tomorrow at midnight or 11:59 p.m. So we'll see what we get. I'm going to wager and hope we get 100. I like to play around with that. All right, so yeah, Daniel says he's submitting 2, so there you go. So it'll be interesting to see where we land with numbers, but we'll talk a little bit more later about once we get through the mechanics of like how to use the system, about how many programs to accept and things like that. It's going to be a little bit different this year because of the lower number of programs that we're anticipating. So let me share my screen. Okay. I think I'm sharing it. What screen are you seeing? Is that the back end of the system? These are all our programs. Is that what you see?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah.
The member suite. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, so these are the programs we have so far. So how you're going to log in is the same way that you would log in if you were a reviewer. And I'll just kind of start, I'm going to pull up the website and sort of show that. So you're going to log into our website, just like you would for anything else that you want to do with a Kuhuai. And you're going to use your Kuhuai credentials to do that. So whatever those are, you will use those. If you have any trouble logging in, let us know. Now would be a good time to go ahead and try logging in if you haven't done so in a while, in case you need to reset your password or you have any other issues. Let us know and I can make sure that you can get in there. So you're going to go ahead and log in. I'm not going to show you that whole process. And when you do so, you will end up, now just ignore this part, but I'm going to pretend I'm Bruce Wayne, just like I always do when we go through this.
Love it.
And you won't see, this is back end stuff. So I'm going in through the console. So it's going to look a little bit different. See, there's Batman over there. And he does a lot of stuff. That's why we like to use him. So I'm going to log in the back end here. Member suite will take a couple minutes to chug along and think about that. So when you log in, it'll probably take you to a page that looks a lot like this. And you always want to choose the individual and not the organization, or that will cause problems. So you continue logging in. And it will take you to your profile page where everything about your account is listed here, and where you want to look for, oh, I forgot to mention too, April, before this meeting, sent out a document. It's a review coordinator training document, and it lists all these steps in here. So just in case I go through this kind of fast and you're like, wait, where was that? Just follow the step. It has screenshots in it of all these different steps too, so you can use that to refer to later on or whenever you like. And so you go to applications, and you know, Bruce Wayne has a lot of stuff going on here. So he has a lot of links here. You may not have so many. You may just have one. And it should say review entries for 2022 Akuhuai conference. This says 2021 because I'm using this for training purposes. So I'm using last year's. We don't have anything. We don't have it set up yet because the call is still open. So everything that I'm going to show you on the screen will say 2021. Everything that you'll see in your document says 2022 because that's how it will be. So you'll click on that link and it's going to think for a minute. And it's going to take you to a page. Now, when you see this where it says selected round, see how this says round 1? You may have to toggle over to round 2. You may or may not have to, but just know that that's a thing. So yours will say like round 2, 2022 reviewers. And again, it'll take a second to load. So it's going to, that little circle is going to chug a little bit. And then you will come up with a whole bunch of programs that will be listed here. And if you've done reviewing before, this should look familiar because as a reviewer, it kind of looks the same, but it's a little bit different because now you're a review coordinator and you have some sort of privileges in here that you didn't have as a reviewer. And one of them is the ability to see the scores that your team submitted. So really the difference is that, you know, as a reviewer, you were going in and you were, you know, reviewing your proposals and scoring them and just, you know, doing that over and over again. As a coordinator now, you are sort of head of your team. So you want to, your job now is to look at the scores that your team provided and the comments that they provided and try to figure out what programs you're going to accept. And we're going to talk a little bit, we're in a unique situation again this year since we have a smaller amount of programs. So we're going to talk about how we're going to do that a little bit later. So here you are with your list of programs that are in your bucket. So this happens to be last year's student engagement DEI combined bucket. And if you click on, now I'm going to hold down my control key and click view scores, and it's going to open up a new tab up at the top here. And again, stop me at any point if I'm going too fast or not making any sense at all. So it opens up that tab, and here you'll see listed across the top the different reviewers that are on your team, and down the side for this particular program are the individual scores that they gave this program. It also lists their comments here. So this is a dashboard where you'll be able to see everything. And I also want to mention that in addition, this is nice, but you can't really do anything with it. You can see it, but you know, you can't really sort it or do anything like you could on a spreadsheet. So what I will do for you is when it comes time for you to start doing this work, is I provide sort of the same thing in a spreadsheet. And I'll just throw that up. We're going to go back to this, but I'm just going to throw that up really quick to show you what that looks like. And the purpose of having the spreadsheet really, I mean, you still have to enter your scores in the system, but the purpose of it is for you to, it just helps you. And I think some of the other review coordinators could probably, you know, chime in here, but it helps you visualize sort of the aggregate of the scores in a little bit different way. And if you wanted to sort or kind of do some crunching on it, or, you know, whatever you want to do, this kind of gives you the ability to work with the numbers, to work with the data a little bit if you wanted to. And I know a lot of people take advantage of this. I think they really use these spreadsheets. So it's kind of the same thing where here again, all your, you know, I make it, it's a pivot table. So I make it so all of your reviewers are across the top. Here are the programs down on the left-hand side. So you can see all of them sort of all in one place instead of one at a time like that. And it gives you the combined score, the average score. It's the ID. This is the ID number. You know, each abstract has an ID number. And then I also provide the comments on this tab. So for each program, you'll be able to see a summary of the comments there. So I just think it makes it a little bit easier. It gives you a little cross section, right, of the different programs and what's going on. And then there are some other fields on this spreadsheet that April and I are going to talk about a little bit later, but I want to get into that right now. So in addition to this, I'm going to provide you with that extra tool to help you. So I try to give you a lot of stuff to help you do your job here. And so you can then go back to this list. I mean, you can leave that tab open if you want, close it. I like to keep keep the tabs open and just kind of keep going back and forth that way. That way I don't lose my place. So what you're going to want to do is after you're going to want to, look at the scores, use that spreadsheet to help you. You can actually go and view the entry just like you would if you were a reviewer, and take a look at that entry and read for yourself. One thing I want to point out, this is kind of important, but for some reason, it looks like it's blank when you scroll down. You just have to keep going because actually not. I don't know why there's that big space there, but no matter what I do, I can't seem to get rid of it. So please note that when you pull this up, because I almost forgot about it. When I looked at it, when I tested it, I was like, what is happening? Oh yeah, gotta scroll. It's actually all there. Target audience, outline, all of the information is there for you to look at as well. And in this case, since you're a review coordinator, it's not blind. I think that's the word we use. It's unmasked. And you will be able to see the information. You'll be able to see who the presenters are. You'll see their organizations, all of that. So your reviewers did not see this, but you will. And then what you're going to do is you still have to submit scores, but your real task here is this is where we're doing the job of deciding which ones we're going to accept, alternate, decline. That's the real task here. And you have all these tools at your disposal to help you do that. And when you're finished with your assessment, like say you used that spreadsheet and you went through those numbers and you already decided, like on that spreadsheet, like I'm going to accept these, this one was just, I have to decline these, whatever. You have that all set out. That you could just go in here and just hit submit scores like this, and it would open up the tab eventually. And you're going to have to put numbers in here. You're not really scoring them, but it makes you do that or you can't submit it. So what I tell people is just put in ones.
Yeah.
These don't mean anything. It's just so the form will submit. It has to. So you just go like this. I mean, you could put twos. It doesn't matter because it's not going to do anything to the scores. And the important part is the comments. So you're either going to say one of three things. You're going to say accept, you're going to say alternate, or you're going to say decline. And then you hit submit scores. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to mess this up. And then you will go back to your list and do the next one until they're all done. And again, what I think a lot of people do is they do the work ahead of time using that spreadsheet. And then when they get in the system, they're ready to just submit scores and they just do them all that way. Because I pull the comments section out of this database to be able to tell which ones you've accepted, alternate, and decline.
I think that Daniel just asked if they need to include a rationale there. No. So in that box, it's just those three things: accept, alternate, or decline. The spreadsheet becomes your tool and any notes that you have. So that's one of the things that I don't think I realized my first year when I was coordinating is that I have to have the rationale because we actually talk about it in our core group. We will slate programs. And so I have I'll basically copy the spreadsheet and then I'll actually put rationales and little notes to myself or anything to help me remember. One year I printed out all the programs and had notes on them. Like it's kind of up to you, but you'll keep that information because we will discuss it. You just don't need it here in this process.
Yep. All right. So are there any other questions about this? We're going to talk about some other things about this system part. Again,
that part is honestly, once you get to this part, it goes very quickly because you're just like 111 accept, 111 decline. So
yeah,
the other part that's kind of a little bit more.
Yeah, I make it sound like a bigger deal than it really is, but the way April described it, that's exactly what happens. I probably should just say that instead of all of that.
Funny. No, it's important to know how much it really is.
Okay, so I want to move on to, I'm going to bring that spreadsheet back up, April, and scroll over to the end of it so that we can talk a little bit about some more parts of this. Why don't we start by talking about, again, our unique situation that we're in with numbers of programs, because in other years, in past years, we would be dealing with possibly 400 to 500 programs. This year it's a lot. And in that scenario, what we had to do, because we only have a certain number of slots for programs at the actual conference itself, we had to sort of limit the number of programs that we could accept because we only had rooms for so many. And we used a very complex process to figure out percentage wise how many from each one of our buckets should be accepted that would give us a good balance of programs. And we've talked a lot about this year about how we're going to handle this with, again, as I said earlier on the call, 66 programs. What was that? How many it was? 62 programs.
Yeah.
You know, if we get to 100, we'll be real happy. So I think we may well be in a situation where we may be accepting almost all of the programs. And I know I said in the beginning, oh, you're going to accept alternate decline. So I think what you do there is you use your judgment. A decline in this case, I think, would be something that is just, it's incomplete. Like, we don't even know what this is. We can't, I mean, it would have to be so, do you see what I'm saying? I think you're going to accept a lot of programs. And so what we kind of thought that we would do is, so on this spreadsheet, there are some extra columns over here to the right, and we're going to talk about each one of those. And the first one here, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's probably kind of small. Let me make it a little bit bigger. We're going to ask you to rank the programs. So let's just say in this case, how many programs are there? Like what, 27, 26 or something like that? Suppose you know, again, use your best judgment. You're like, you know what, I am going to accept all these. I don't have any declines. Rank them in order of, you know, top to bottom, which ones you think are the strongest programs. Because that will allow us, when we go to slot programs, give us an idea of, even though we're accepting them all, what are our strongest ones and where do we put those and how do we deal with those stronger ones versus the ones that are more towards the bottom that are not as strong. Does that make sense, or have I confused all of you horribly? Yeah, because I think that's really, you know, we've talked and thought about it. We decided that's probably the best way to handle it this year. And again, you know, your alternates and declines would be things, you know, an alternate might be something like, I could accept this program if they did the following things. I really believe in this program. I think it'd be good. I can't accept it because it's just missing too many things, but I think it could be a program. And a decline would have to be something like, it's just, this isn't even on the radar.
Yeah.
That will get many of those. Usually our submitters do a pretty good job.
Yeah, typically pretty good. I think that this does go back to the point where, as we are slating, and we'll do some preliminary slating kind of behind the scenes, but as you get into it, we're gonna be able to talk through some of those things where you're like, oh, I wish it would have had this, or I wish this could have been more explained. And we actually reach out to people to do some of those things and help them be successful in that. And so that's where you are the expert in all of your programs, and for all of your bucket, you are the expert in that. So part of the review process that I didn't necessarily know about, like, again, that first year, you're all like, ooh, what? I read all the program proposals. So I read all of them. I kind of made notes, and then I went into the spreadsheet. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I see where this, and it honestly kind of falls into place. You just have to be able to speak that or speak about that when as we're slating. And then the other two categories that Lori's going to talk about.
Yeah. So,
Lori, can I ask a quick question?
yeah.
And because I was looking at what I did last year, so I had for the ranking. So do you want numerical ranking or just like beginning, middle, end?
Oh,
Good
that's a
call.
good question. Yeah.
Because I looked at, I was like,
Yeah.
wait, how many did I decline last year? It's because I had like accepted beginning, accepted middle, accepted end, or whatever.
Yeah, Lori, you can talk to.
I was going to say
Yeah.
numerical, but were
Yeah.
you going to say
Yes.
something different? Okay.
Yep, no, numerical. So remember last year, we were trying to also kind of figure out slating wise across the conference. And we were
Right.
trying to say, oh, this might be good at the beginning. Or like for me, I had a couple of programs that were kind of similar. And so I'm like, ooh, this one would go well at the beginning and this one maybe then put at the end type thing. And be just due to the number that we have, we're not even asking that. We changed that category this morning to take that part out, because really we just need a numerical ranking as we kind of go down, because we're probably going to be accepting most, if not all of, well, probably not all, but most of the programs that are turned in.
Right. And then my other question for the senior leadership positions. So should those be an accept with a yes there, or because chances like, I mean, I would accept it, but I don't know if it would rank it as much as do you just put it in like for the SHO forum or whatever?
If you could rank it in with all of the other ones, so do all of your programs in the ranking and then put like a yes in that, then the senior leadership category. That's like for the people who haven't done this before, that's kind of like, oh, hey, this would be great on an SHO track or different things like that. We'll actually kind of code them. And sometimes we'll pull them out in order to put them in. And then, but if not, we need them over in the ranking place. And then we'll just kind of pull out as we need them.
Yeah, because I think that I know that I probably was a little confused last year. I was like, oh, this is really should be a senior level position or program. I don't think it would fall here. So should it be an alternate for us? But yes, it should be over here for this.
Yeah, no, I think we keep all of them together. And then as we look to slate the SHO track, we'll just pull. And then if say your number 4 program gets pulled, we'll just move the rest of them up. Does that make sense? Okay. Lori, if I'm saying this wrong,
that's absolutely right.
Okay.
That's how it's done.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Do you have any preference on how we should go about ranking if we ourselves have programs in that bucket? Like, should we also be ranking our own programs, or should we like just not rank those ones that we ourselves submitted and just rank the rest of the other ones in that bucket?
I know that we've told our program reviewers to not do theirs. I don't know that we've ever had or coordinated. Lori, this is yours because I don't know what we've done in the past.
And maybe it doesn't have to be answered now. I'm confident because I'm in the DEI bucket. I'm confident I'm gonna have something in that bucket. And so I'm just curious.
So I have a suggestion, but I don't know, Lori, if you've had.
I know, go for it.
I would say that I would rank it where it kind of falls by the other reviewers, because it was a blind process to all the other reviewers, and then just be like, hey, everyone, I'm just putting a disclaimer out there. This is where like I'm in there, but this is where it kind of fell.
That works.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, typically mine fell pretty well. The most work I had last year was, or the year before was, where I could only have so many. And so that was the clinch, like that was the difficult part. And then we ranked the alternates, but that fell into line with what most people, what the review court, the program reviewers had done.
I think that's a good question. I like the solution there. I wanted to talk, I know we talked about how to rank these senior leadership possibility programs. I just wanted to frame those programs a little bit more. So we have a track at the conference, an educational track. We call them SHO pathway programs. And they are actually programs that are actually sponsored. I believe Trainer is our sponsor again this year. So I guess the purpose of my saying that is these are programs are, you know, they're pretty big deal. They're high profile programs that would be obviously attended by SHOs, and they're sponsored. So I think that the point of my saying is that they have to be at that level when you're thinking about those programs. So I think you'd be looking at those and looking at the title and abstract and all of that, and then looking at the presenters are and thinking about who's going to be in the room for those types of programs. So that is the purpose of the SHO pathway programs. And I think the whole experience of those is designed to be that SHOs could be sort of, you know, if SHO pathways are in a particular room, you know, we usually reserve one or two rooms, you know, for SHO pathways. If you're an SHO and you're at the conference, you could be spending almost all of your educational programming time in that room, just going to SHO pathway programs. That's sort of the concept there. Did that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
This next one over here, threaded programs, possibility. So these are what we've tried to do over the past couple of years is try to group together themes of programs that appear to be related. So if you've got a couple programs in your bucket that are kind of a similar topic, but you think to yourself, boy, this would be, if these were a part one and a part two, this would be one dynamic program. If you see something like that, this column is a great way to indicate that. So what people did last year is they would say, this could be great when paired with, and they would use, you see here it says indicate the ID of the threaded suggestions paired with number 3, 4, 9, 8. I just made that up. And that will tell us to, oh, okay, which one's 3, 4, 9, 8. And then I'll go find that one and we'll figure out which ones that you're talking about need to be paired together. And that way you don't have to put the whole title in there. You know, so if you just use ID numbers, then we can match them up and see which ones you're talking about. And we may come back and ask about it too. But as April was mentioning earlier, when we get together, you know, and we're slotting programs, we look at all of that. So you may not find any, but you may. You know, it could be 2 programs, it could be 3 programs. Yeah, and I think that, let's see, is that the end? I think that's the end of the spreadsheet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This again, if you, so typically we've sent this back to Lori. And so at the end, and I have an email for you to kind of send out. It's your second email to your review, your program reviewers, as well as some kind of, oh, hey, remember these things that you'll get this later today. That's kind of part of it of, oh, hey, we send this back to Lori because she kind of collects all of them. What I typically had done is I add a column to this to kind of keep my notes. I also have done, again, paper copy. I've taken notes on something like it's whatever works for you. But that is one of the things that we have done. Also, Lori, did we have a column on comments? I remember we had a column on comments if we needed to adjust any of the comments.
I could add that in here.
Okay. Because as you're reading, sometimes our reviewers make some direct comments that might be a little too direct. And so we give the comments back to the proposer. And so sometimes we need to adjust them a little bit.
Yeah, and as you can see, if you can read this, I know it's probably kind of small. These are good comments in here. Mm-hmm. I like the way this one is done. Instead of saying, you know, if you see something in there where, like, this was a great way to say this, instead of saying, you know, this was just skimpy. And you'll see that occasionally. You know,
Mhm.
it does happen every now and then, but instead, you know, he said it has a moderate amount. I mean, this was just really well done. Like all these are pretty good comments in here. But yeah, so as you're reviewing them, if you see anything like that, let us know so we can make a couple edits before that goes out.
I guess I would just say that if you can get your reviewers to actually put in comments, it is beyond helpful. Especially when you're doing the ranking, because you can read them and come up with it, but it is so much easier to get the comments back from people. Because I've been declined and not have any comments tell me why I've been declined. But I've also been accepted with like saying, hey, you might want to, you know, make some of these changes. And so, but it's so helpful.
Yeah. Just looking at Paul's comments, he just did such a nice job of doing that reviewing, and they are so helpful. We
Yeah.
read these too. We'll go right on back to these sometimes
Yeah.
in that meeting. I mean, they mean a lot. So yeah. So yeah, I'll definitely provide this whole nice big spreadsheet, this tool for you to be able to do your work. Just going through my list here to see, we talked about SHO pathways, threaded programs. We just talked about comments. Do we want to review the dates
Yes.
of round 2? So round 1's going to open on Monday, the 20th. So I'm going to open that up, and that goes until I think the 14th. And then round 2, which we're all talking about here, will be January 17th. So it's going to open up on the 17th and go through, it's going to close on the 28th. And obviously, you know, April was mentioning communications that she was getting ready to send out. So, I mean, you'll be hearing from us through this process.
When does round 1 end again?
I believe it ends on the 14th. And that gives me a couple days to turn things around. Oh yeah, it's a Friday too. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it actually gives me no days to turn around. No, it's fine. What I end up doing like on the 17th is like, as I go through them, I sort of open them one at a time. Like I'll start with the biggest one, the biggest bucket, because I want to give those people the most time to do their work. And so, you know, if DEI happens to be the biggest one, I'll be like, okay, yours is open, you know, and I sort of roll them out. So yeah, because I have to make this whole spreadsheet and, you know, do all that kind of stuff. And then what I do too is during round 1, when reviewers are reviewing, I know I'm kind of going backwards, I'm talking about round 1 now, but I do like automated spreadsheets when round 1 starts that come out of the system, and they'll be sort of ugly. They'll look sort of like this raw data sheet like this. They won't be this massive because this is like everything, but it gives you an idea of what your reviewers are, you know, which reviewers are reviewing. So it gives you an idea of how your team is doing in round 1. So I have some automated reports that I send out, I think weekly or something like that, that should come right to review coordinators, and that'll tell you how things are going. So it gives you an idea of like, okay, half my team, who am I missing here? Who's not reviewing? Who do I need to go remind?
Yep.
So I do a lot of
Nice,
spreadsheet.
because we will come back in January, and that's a perfect time. I'll send a reminder to you all to send out to your coordinators just to say, hey, it's a great time to touch base. We're right in the middle of the process. They've had it for a couple of weeks, and there's a couple weeks left. All things. I did want to let you know that looking at this email, Lori and I had discussed it. There's going to be an email out to your reviewers again, because that starts. And so we just want to remind them that, hey, this is starting, and that submissions close tomorrow. And then there's also the piece on, oh no, it's just the email too. Sorry. That's all. I was like, oh wait, I have 2, but the other one is something else. So thanks.
All right, I'm going to stop
It's
sharing.
Thursday. It feels like it should have been, I don't know about you all, but this week, I'm not telling, like, for real, Tuesday, it felt like it should be Friday.
Oh
already.
yeah. It's been ridiculous.
Yeah.
So ready for break time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is there anything else that I can cover that would be helpful? And I know there's a little space of time between this and when you actually get started doing it. So, you know, some things may need to be refreshed. And again, just ask. Happy to help. We can even jump on a Zoom call and I can show things, or, or if you're running into a problem, you can show your screen and I can figure out what's going on, and, anything like that. All right. Well,
All
I know
right.
we all have a lot to do, so no need to go on. So if we're done, I hope that if I don't see any of you until, after the holidays, have a wonderful holiday and break, and, hope you get some time to rest and relax before we hit
Absolutely.
January.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you all.